please remain standing as Mr. Denzel Plummer, the NIDS project coordinator, comes and offers our prayer.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we come to you today thanking you for your blessings. We thank you for our leaders and decision makers here today. We thank you for providing for us our basic needs: food, shelter, and clothing. As we gather here this morning for the launch of Operations Birthright, we pray specifically that you show us the path. We ask that this project extend to every individual in the country who are without a rightful birth certificate. Lord, we know that with you, we will have a successful project. We ask these things in your Son's name. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Thank you so much, Denzel, for the prayer this morning. Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, the Honourable Floyd Green, Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister with responsibility for digital transformation. Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, representing Mr. Mark Golding, the Leader of the Opposition. The Honourable Audrey Sewell, Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. Mr. Benjamin Roseth, the Modernization of State Specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank in Kingston. Dr. Warren Vernon, the Program Director at the National Identification System, and other members of the NIDS team. Professor Lloyd Waller, Chairman of the Board of the Registrar General's Department, and other representatives of the RGD, including its CEO. Mr. Denzel Thorpe for our prayers. Ms. Trudy Deans, who is here from the Education Transformation team. Our friends from Missionaries of the Poor, thank you so much for being here with us this morning as well. Members of the media, especially those who are joining online and those who are viewing, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. I like it. It's a hearty good morning indeed. Thank you so much. This morning we are here for the launch of Operation Birthright, really to affirm the fact that we are guaranteed an identity. And so for persons who do not have a birth certificate, it is important that as a government we lead in ensuring that we capture everyone's identity. Let me give you a little bit of background, because on February 26, 2018, the government of Jamaica partnered with the IDB under a loan contract and established a national identification system. NIDS is being developed to use Jamaica's birth certificate records as essential source documents for determining identification from birth. The RGD plays an indispensable role daily in the registration and issuance of birth certificates. Well, Operation Birthright is the government's undocumented program. And the term undocumented really means that the registration of all Jamaican nationals who do not have an RGD computer-generated birth certificate, or who may never have been registered by the RGD, will now be placed in a registry. And so this certainly, every time I start a conversation or a program involving things that are happening, good things that are happening, I say that this certainly is giving hope for our people. And so, ladies and gentlemen, to bring official greetings, may I ask Mr. Benjamin Roseth, the Modernization of State Specialist at the Inter-American Development Bank, to bring us greetings. Mr. Roseth.
Thank you and good morning, everyone. Greetings to the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister, and the Honourable Floyd Green, MP, Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister. All protocols being observed, please allow me to make just a few brief remarks on this most positive occasion. When I was thinking about this event, one word kept coming to mind: foundation. Now, generally, when we hear the word foundation, we think about a building. It's the solid base rooted into the ground on which we build spaces, sometimes high into the sky, in which we live, work, and play. Without a foundation, a building can be swept away all too easily with natural events that are bound to happen: a heavy rain, a mudslide, or windstorm. As that building is swept away, all that life, work, and play that it once harbored is lost. In the field of civil registration, a birth certificate is known as a foundational identification document. I found that label quite appropriate. Much like the foundation of a building, a birth certificate is a solid base on which the edifice of formal life can be built. Through a birth certificate, a person can get access to government services, financial services, to property, and in short order, a national identification card, and many other things to work, live, and play. Is it possible to carry on a life without a birth certificate? Of course. But it is much more precarious. Just like the natural disasters that can sweep away a house, life is full of unfortunate and unforeseen events that, at some point or another, are bound to occur. Without a foundational identification document, the edifices of individuals' lives can be knocked down all too easily. But with such a foundation, it is easier to hold your ground. Let's think back just to the early days of the pandemic. How many Jamaicans were unable to claim the benefits that the government had approved for them for those in need because they couldn't be identified? Project Birthright is an important step to strengthening the foundation of Jamaican society, in which everyone has a solid base on which they can build their lives and reach high into the sky. For the IDB, it is an honor to support the government of Jamaica in guaranteeing the most basic of rights, legal identity for all Jamaicans. Congratulations to the team and to the government for this important step. Thank you.
Mr. Rosette, thank you so much. It's always interesting hearing from you because you have such interesting analogies, really. It's the foundational document, really, and it's the solid base on which the edifice of life exists. Thank you so much. That is very important. And an identity is such a crucial thing. You know, can you imagine going through life without having an identity? You're really lost. Your identity is really who you are. When people call you by your name, it gives you an identity. But when you have a document that says, this is who I am, it gives you also that solid base to move through society. So thank you once again, Mr. Rosette. I really appreciate it. You know, under Project Birthright, persons can also visit their members of parliament. So, you know, I'm coming to the representative here, or any of the RGD's offices to request assistance under the program. Now, MPs, churches, and community groups are partnering to identify those in need who can benefit from this undocumented registration program. Being part of the program, here's how you can be part of the program. You have to be born in Jamaica, you are aged 1 or above, and you have a monthly income of about $37,000 or below, and you should not be currently receiving a similar assistance under another program. So there are some criteria that as a government we've worked out, and certainly this initiative is a big part of government collaboration. And now we're not talking about government as a singular arm, but government generally, government in opposition and all the other arms of government who have partnered with that. And so, ladies and gentlemen, let me now welcome Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, Member of Parliament, but primarily she's representing the Leader of the Opposition this morning, who will also bring greetings and endorse the program. Doc.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Honourable Prime Minister, Minister Green, members of the audience. Really good morning to you all. For a minute there, you sounded as if you weren't sure if I was going to endorse the program. But I stand here representing the Leader of the Opposition, who unfortunately could not make it this morning. But he wanted me to make sure that you are aware that he does support any proactive action that one may take to ensure that we can get individuals who don't have a birth certificate, certainly with one in their hands. And so I come not just with the message I bring, but truly representing the Leader of Opposition. You know, as I sat thinking about what else I would say, I had to remark on how far we have come with the RGD. I remember the days when so many individuals begged a space in school, while they didn't have a birth certificate and they tried to get one afterwards. And that often, when they actually got a birth certificate, they would realize that the name that they thought they had all these years really was not the name. And I'm not talking about minor issues around spelling now. I'm talking about totally different names. So a project like this is an extremely important one. In other cultures, naming is really important in terms of identity and who you are. And as a country where so many of our people struggle with who they are, and so much do we struggle with it that Marcus Garvey had a whole movement trying to get us to be proud of that and to understand who we are. So I see this as part of that journey where you start not just about the name, it also has other information on it around the rest of the roots, who you are, who you come from, and all of that. And so I stand here today proudly endorsing the program and encouraging others to really work to make sure, whether it is our young people who are at risk, so many of our older citizens who really don't have a birth certificate. And I'm hoping that the process is going to be made a little easier than it currently is. I had, I couldn't say pleasure of accompanying an individual who thought I was old enough to be able to be of assistance in filling out the form. And I'm telling you, it is a laborious process. And so anything that can be done to, one, make it easier, and two, make it more readily available and accessible, I think is something that we should all welcome. And those would be my remarks.
Doc, thank you so much. We've really come a far way, normally we give these long speeches and thinking it's impactful, but that short but very impactful speech was very welcome. Thank you so much, and thank you for reminding us of where we're coming from too. The RGD, boy, I tell you, from the small white paper that really meant nothing, that could easily be forged, if we're to talk the truth, to now being a very secure document that we can trust and take all over the world and stand confidently with. So thank you so much for that. Really good and insightful. Ladies and gentlemen, I gave you a little synopsis of what the program could be about, but ahead of our welcoming for brief remarks our Honourable Minister, we have a video to play to explain a little bit more about Project Birthright.
Operation Birthright is a government's program to address the major issue of Jamaicans not having birth certificates. According to a recent Capri report, approximately 200,000 Jamaicans have no legal identification, and this affects their ability to register and collect benefits from the government. Operation Birthright aims to provide identity registration support specifically to needy children and adults without legal identification and physical identification documents. Under the program, some $350,000 has been allocated under the National Identification Systems Project to fund the undocumented registration program. Members of Parliament, churches, and community groups are partnering to identify needy persons who can benefit from this undocumented registration program. Being a part of the program is very easy. Firstly, in order to be eligible, you or the person wishing to register must have been born in Jamaica, be aged 1 year and above, monthly income of 37,000 Jamaican dollars and below, not be currently receiving or have received similar assistance under another similar program. Persons can be recommended by any of the following: the head of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, senior official in the Ministry of Local Government certifying an individual as a registered poor, member of Parliament, a Justice of the Peace, public officer SEG 1 and above, medical practitioner, Minister of Religion, police officer, gazetted ranks, parish councillor, dental surgeon, principal, primary, secondary, and tertiary educational institutions, veterinarian, bank manager, official representative of the Salvation Army, official representative of the Missionary of the Poor, the CEO, coordinator of a registered civil society organization, the head of the PATH program in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security if the applicant is on PATH. Eligible persons can visit their Member of Parliament's office or any RGD office island-wide to participate in the program. The RGD will then make contact with these individuals for more information so as to have their birth certificates processed. Once completed and the birth certificate generated, the individual will be contacted by the RGD to pick up the birth certificate. For more information on Operation Birthright or the eligibility criteria under the program, visit nidsfacts.com.
All right, there you have it, a little bit more about Operation Birthright. And interestingly, even as we try to roll out NIDS, some justices of the peace are saying, well, what's my role going to be? Well, there's a role under Operation Birthright for the JP to make recommendations. So thank you so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's now welcome the Honourable Floyd Green, the Minister without portfolio in the Office of the Prime Minister, but specifically with responsibility for digital transformation. Minister.
Thank you, Naomi. Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, representing the Leader of the Opposition, our hardworking Permanent Secretary, Audrey Sewell, Benjamin Rosette, from our IDB partners, Dr. Warren Vernon, NIDS Program Director, Sir Charlton McFarlane, our Chief Executive Officer at the RGD, missionaries of the poor, other specially invited guests, members of the media. Good morning, everybody. Depending on where you reside, you may find it locked away in a safe. You may find it under a mattress. Normally, when you do have a birth certificate, you take special care to ensure that it is protected because you recognize that it is one of the most vital documents in your life. Your birth certificate gives you your proof of age, nationality, identity, and it is required to carry out some of our most important and personal transactions, to enroll in school, to apply for work, to receive benefits from the government. Normally, all those processes require a birth certificate. What it means is that those who do not have a birth certificate are at a significant disadvantage. And it prevents access to critical services. There are many stories over the years, and as you look on the screen, you will see a number of stories about people who, because they do not have a birth certificate, they have been unable to access some of the most critical services. Quite recently, I came across the story of Rolando Grant, a 16-year-old hearing impaired young man from Linsted in St. Catherine, who, because of challenges in getting a birth certificate, was out of school for 2 years. Fortunately, we worked with the RGD and our team to go and hand him a birth certificate. It made me reflect that the government has never really designed a comprehensive program to ensure that those who are unable to afford to get a birth certificate have a way to so do. Operation Birthright is the first comprehensive approach to find our most vulnerable citizens who do not have a birth certificate and who cannot afford to get a birth certificate, and to provide them a birth certificate free of cost. And I really want you to give a round of applause to the NIDS team for recognizing that this was fundamentally important to design this approach that we can move forward on. I think we should give them a big, big round of applause. Our goal is to find the most vulnerable. And we do expect, we're looking to target at least 11,000 Jamaicans who do not have a birth certificate and to get them a part of Operation Birthright. In fact, we're taking a comprehensive, inclusive approach. And I'm sure you recognize by the list of people who can recommend people that we're really taking a comprehensive and inclusive approach. So we will be partnering with the members of parliament, and we're saying to our members of parliament, we'll be providing them with documents that they can nominate at least 60 persons to access this service, and we've outlined the criteria. We will be looking to partner with the Justice of the Peace and also with our youth. In fact, we're going to be partnering with the National Youth Parliament, who have reached out to us to say they recognize that this is an issue and they want to lead the drive into the communities to help sign up people who are needy for this program. And as such, we're going to be utilizing our youth to do this. And this is a bigger drive just to ensure that, again, our most vulnerable are taken care of. And it signals the drive of this government to always incorporate, include, and make the lives better of our most vulnerable. The project will be executed, as you have heard, through the RGD, and I've already had discussions with Chairman Waller and our CEO to ensure that we keep to the timelines, that we're efficient in turnaround, and that we also do not inconvenience the people who are regularly accessing the RGD services, so that we can give a very sure and clear timeline for turnaround for these birth certificates. But when our citizens get these birth certificates, the reality is that will unlock so much more for them. And again, this is in part of our drive in digitally transforming Jamaica, and this will be one of the foundation documents required for them to have their national identification card and for them to really step into our new digital society. So I definitely believe that this is one of the most transformational projects that this government has embarked on. And I know that in my neck of the woods, down in St. Elizabeth PM, we always come across some people, especially in deep rural, who are in need. And you know what is the reality? The hardest part is that they normally find you when they're at the most difficult point. So when they're trying to access a benefit, they come to you and they say, MP, boy, I want to do this, but I don't have a birth certificate. And I really can't afford a birth certificate. How can you help me? And MPs among us know we've had to find ways to help, which often comes at a significant cost to the MP. I'm happy that we're taking a more comprehensive approach to address this problem, and I look forward to those who will benefit and to how it will help us truly transform Jamaica into a digital society. Thank you, everybody.
Minister, thank you so very kindly for your words. And importantly, this Operation Birthright will be unlocking so much more. You know, Jamaica is always seen as a country of potential. We have so much more to offer, so much more if we only allow ourselves to do it in a way that will keep up pace with the rest of the world and even outpace the rest of the world. Well, now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the Prime Minister of Jamaica. In my notes, I always, listen to the words that he uses when he speaks to the people of Jamaica. Today, he's really on mission transformation, ensuring that Jamaica is effective and efficient, ensuring that Jamaica is modernized, improved, and of course, the man who, every time he speaks, tries to leave a nugget of hope for the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Prime Minister Andrew Holness.
Thank you, Naomi, for that introduction. I certainly did walk with my nuggets of hope, and I will hopefully leave a few with you today. Let me acknowledge Minister Floyd Green, who has been tasked with the arduous task of getting our national identification system and our civil registry, our digital civil registry up and running. Let me also acknowledge Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, who seems to be following me around these days, representing the leader of the opposition. I'm not seeing, our permanent secretary, the Honourable Audrey Sewell. Mr. Benjamin Roseth, who is a poet in delivering his presentation. He finds all kinds of ways to creatively package the information, which might not always be information that is digestible, but the way in which you have put it, I'm certain most Jamaicans would have absorbed it, the foundation document. Dr. Warren Vernon, Program Director of the National Identification System. Professor Lloyd Waller, Chairman of the Board of the Registrar General's Department, and other representatives, distinguished guests, media representatives, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly a good morning. Now, on any given day, according to the RGD, an estimated 100 Jamaican babies are born across Jamaica. About 100, right, Mr. McFarlane? Maybe 15 years ago, it could have been 120. And maybe 30 years ago, it was about 150. What we do know is that our birth rate is decreasing. Well, is that correct? Is it that it's increasing but at a decreasing rate? The population is increasing but at a decreasing rate because the birth rate is decreasing, right? And I hope that's digestible. Our birth rate is decreasing, but our population is increasing, inching up, but ever so slowly. And at this point, I will say that we are a few days away from the official start of our census. And that census information will give us more accurate, more current information about the profile of our population, to include its size, the demographic makeup, and other information on, for example, the quality of housing, access to water, and other amenities. So I'm very excited about the census, and I look forward to the census, and I use this opportunity to encourage every Jamaican to participate in the census. There is nothing to be fearful of. There is no need to hide from the government. There is this view in the back of people's mind that the government only wants information to be a predator on you. That is not the case. The government needs the information in order to make your life easier, in order to serve you better, to increase your access to service. And so I'm saying to all Jamaicans, please take a positive view on the census. The information that you give will be kept very confidential and safe, and in the long run will inure to the benefit of you individually and the entire society. A birth certificate is a document issued by all countries in the world. It is, as was described, a foundation document. It is the first legal document that a citizen will get. When you enter into the world, this document says, we recognize your birth, and you are now officially documented in the register of your state. We know about you. And there's nothing wrong with that. There are some people, however, who feel that they should exist without any interaction with the state. The state should know nothing about them. Now, I don't know if societies can work if everyone were to take that perspective. So it is important that every birth is registered. So in Jamaica, birth certificates serve as proof of an individual's age. That's the first and foremost use of the document. Citizenship status, and it forms the basis of one's identity. So because this is the foundation document, the NIDS is built on top of this. The National Identification System is built on top of this. So someone applying for their national identification card would have to have proof that they were born in Jamaica on the date formally certified and registered, and their parents to establish citizenship. So it is important that we ensure that all Jamaicans have this foundation document. But it is not just needed for the needs. Let's talk about education. If you are to go to school, right, we say education is a public good and it is a right and everyone should have access to it. But can you imagine how difficult it would be to establish what grade the child should be in if we were not able to establish the child's date of birth? It's a bit chaotic in the education system. You could end up with 16-year-olds passing off as, grade 6 students. I'm just being extreme to make the point, but you get what I'm saying. And we have had situations in the education system where you're trying to establish the age of the child to see which grade the child should be in. Simple things like these. Now, so you can see the importance of getting that birth certificate because it gets you access. So providing the state with information, it's not about the state doing something negative to you or using it against you. It is to empower the state to serve you better. That's what it is. In other words, it gives the state the ability to fulfill your right to the public goods that you are entitled to. So, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, we recall him as a great South African anti-apartheid global citizen and leader, described the birth certificate as a small paper, as was described by Naomi earlier and alluded to by Dr. Brown Burke as having come a far way from this little piece of white paper. Wasn't it pink at some point in time? My recollection. Yes. Yes. That, was handwritten and that could easily be copied and defrauded. So what he says, it's a small paper, but it actually establishes who you are and gives access to the rights and privileges, and he goes one step further, and the obligations of citizenship. It is such a powerful document. So, listen, you will be who you are, and nobody can take who you are away from you. And you will always be identified to your friends. But if the state doesn't know you and is empowered to act as the arbiter of your identity, anyone can get up and say, I am you, in land disputes, in property rights disputes. It's very important that you have an established state identity. In other words, it is important that there are documents that establishes your identity, quite separate and apart from the nickname that you might have and the people who know you for, 50 odd years and so forth. That's fine. Nobody's taking that away from you. That's your identity. But it's important that your name is written down somewhere. So the question is your name written there? So, Capri reported in a study entitled, Who Am I? The People Them Needs, estimated, and by the way, that's the title of the study, estimated that 200,000 Jamaicans do not have any proof of their legal identity. Further, the government and people of Jamaica got a clearer picture of the magnitude of the problem during the pandemic. Now, during the pandemic, the average person required some form of support from the state or may have had to interact with the state. And let me break that down a little bit more. When we had to establish curfews, for example, I mean, I'm so happy I don't have to do that anymore. People lived in trepidation when they see me come up to the podium. And believe me, it was trepidation for me as well. But if you had to travel, you needed to have documents to establish your identity and your occupation so that if an exemption were given, you were able to access that exemption. So you had to interact with the state in a time of public emergency, and the identification was so critical to that. And then for those who needed support, now there was a suggestion that we should just go out there and just throw out the money, or just go with a truck and offload the food packages. I'm exaggerating, but if you were to take the argument, that's what it would amount to. And I recall when we had to do a lockdown in an area in St. Mary, and persons were saying, we didn't get the food packages and we're locked in and we can't get the food packages. And when I inquired, there was a slowness in delivery, not because of the logistics of transportation, but because there was a requirement to ensure that we identified everyone that we are giving the state resources to. Because you see, the flip side of saying just give it away is that, you know, when the Auditor General reports its Parliament, the very people who say just give it away will be the very people saying you wasted government resources or there was some form of corruption or something. So during the pandemic, we realized that our ability to provide welfare services was hampered by the lack of a system of standardized identification. And you would have experienced that, for example, if you wanted to access any of the care benefits, you first had to register. And you had to go online because that was the fastest way to do it. And you had to put in TRN and your bank account. And then we had to go and verify that. And in the process of verification, the error cohort was high, meaning that sometimes the bank accounts were wrong, they were inactive, the TRN numbers were wrong, and that slows up the ability to make these digital instantaneous transfers to you. But more than that, many Jamaicans did not have active bank accounts or any bank account whatsoever. And so we ended up having to deliver many of the transfer payments through the traditional cash means or check means. And that again slowed up the process. Now, can you imagine a Jamaica where every Jamaican from birth has their birth certificate? Now, since 2007, we have been doing bedside registration. So I'm expecting that as the generations progress, we will not have the problem of undocumented births in Jamaica. So, but there is still a large number, as I've said, estimated at about 200,000. And that's significant because that's 200,000 of your adult, possibly working population who would need to access not just government services, but business services as well. So, but I ask you to hold my hand a little bit and walk with me down a road of the future of Jamaica, where all Jamaicans are documented. So they have a birth certificate, and on top of that foundation document, they now have a national identification card. And with that national identification card, if they choose to travel or need to travel, they have their passport. If they want to drive or need to drive, they have their driver's license. And every Jamaican has a bank account or a digital wallet. And what's a digital wallet? So a digital wallet is that you are registered in the, let me find the best way to explain it, but you have the means to hold the digital currency. So Jamaica is putting together all the elements of this new future, right? So we are making sure every Jamaican has their foundation document of the birth certificate. We're putting in place the NIDS, which is not just a physical ID. Yes, you will have the card, but the NIDS gives you the added ability to verify identity, right? So it's not just about looking at the card and then looking at the person's face and say, I make a photo match. No, you can take the card, and those persons who have access to the NIDS database can verify specific information. So there's a double factor verification, so that banks don't need to say to you, well, come to me with two references, plus your JP, plus your birth certificate, and if you have your passport and driver's license, bring them along as well. No, all of that is gone with the NIDS. Just that one card, because it captures all your civil registry information and important biographic and some demographic information. There is just one point of easy access to verify your identity. Now, once you have that and your identity is verifiable like that, then the next step is to move into the digital future. So it means that money doesn't have to come in the form of this physical paper that you had to line up in the National Stadium to go and collect that little grant that we gave during the height of the pandemic, which several hundred thousands of Jamaicans collected. They went to remittance agents, they went to banks, and we had to set up stations at the National Stadium and the National Arena. We could have given you the money digitally if we were able to give you that digital wallet, meaning that we identify you as a person and we assign you an account in the digital space. You don't even see it. But when you take your phone and you go on the app tells you you have $10,000 in your account. And that money on your phone in the app, you could then take it and go to a store and buy what you want. So there would have been no need for anyone to be lining up during a pandemic where gathering is a public risk. And there will be further situations like that where the state will need to provide resources in situations of emergency or even regularly that would avoid the need for gathering, the need to travel to a point, to stand in line at a bank at the risk of being robbed or, losing the money. All of that is eliminated. So what this is, therefore, is an important step for equity, to make sure that every Jamaican, including those who did not have their birth certificate, that they get a chance to participate in the NIDS. And once we have everyone participating in the NIDS fully, then we can increase the intensity of moving towards our digital society. We are marching in that direction very rapidly. And I know it is causing some concerns and dislocation. Some Some elements of the society are moving much faster than others. The banks are moving very quickly in debranching. You are hearing banks are closing branches and setting up digital branches. You're seeing the launch of our digital currency apps all over the country. You know, you will be seeing more coming out. The banks are offering more digital services and digital products. And it is the inevitable way of the future. The challenge is, of course, that not everyone is digitally literate or digitally native, and some people will be left behind. Older persons who may not be as dexterous with the telephones, or who are just so accustomed to understanding their wealth in physical form that they have to see the cash, the dollar, the paper, the fiat money in order to appreciate that this is wealth. That is going to take time to change, but I must say it is imminent, it is inevitable, and it will happen. But it will not be to the exclusion of those who have difficulties. So as we roll out the NIDS and we make sure everyone has a birth certificate, we're also looking at ensuring that we have digital coaches. So we're going to have to take some of our young people, we're going to have to put them in a youth service corps, and we're going to have to send them all around the country to help those who might be digitally challenged and to explain some of the concepts that might be foreign to a lot of our older persons, and to bring them on into this new march to the digital society. You know, I have a few more points to make before I close. But we are, you know, we're lucky to be alive at this time in the history of the world where we're going through a transformation. It's called a fourth industrial revolution. And you're seeing it. I can say that, you know, 90% of this room would have been alive when there was no internet. And you're not that old. The internet is a very new invention, but it has revolutionized. I still remember carrying the cell phone like a bag over my shoulder, and look at the cell phone today. So I'm saying that we're living in a time where all of these changes are happening. And we have to, as a developing country, not be left behind again. And I'm saying we should, so yes, there are pockets of the society that is resisting the change, feel it is all kinds of, you know, nonsense that speak, and I forgive me for saying that, but it is relative to the importance of the changes that have happened before. So, you know, when our societies moved in the first industrial revolution, when, you know, machines started to take over, and we had, industrial agriculture, you know, we were still in the plantation economy, still a slave society. We were left behind, and we are still behind because of that. Now, the digitization of society is happening, and we are still in a digital divide. We are still being left behind. And I'm saying to especially our young people, we have to embrace this change and move forward with it so that we are not left behind again. And an important part of being able to articulate and maneuver and move about in the digital society is to have your identity properly established and documented by the state. That's so important. So with those points, I'm certain I didn't deliver them in poetry, but I'm sure that our listening audience gets the point, that this administration committed to building out the digital society. We are on our way. We're doing it fairly and inclusively. And we're making sure that the benefits of it redound to every single Jamaican. And I want to say that we are a few months away from the NIDS being officially started, meaning registration. We're a few months away from the establishment of NERA, which is the new body to administer national identification. And we have already put in place our digital currency, and we are putting in place all the legislation, the data protection and the data commissioner. All of those elements are coming together. So we will have, Jamaica will be probably the leading country in this region as it relates to creating the digital society. So, ladies and gentlemen, I leave you with that as a hopeful sign of our future. God bless you and thank you.
Prime Minister, thank you so much. And yes, you did paint that future for us, that future of a digital society with ease, efficiency, and certainly ensuring that we transform Jamaica. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to a point where we're going to show you Wagwan, right? So we have the nomination forms that we presented, as well as the presentation of an actual birth certificate to someone who falls under this program. May I invite Dr. Angela Brown-Burke, who's representing the Leader of the Opposition, and who represents herself in our own right too, right? That's part of identity. You represent yourself. If you could come up, ma'am, along with Minister Floyd Green, who will make the presentation of the nomination form, and Minister Green, Dr. Brown-Burke would be symbolically accepting on behalf of MPs. Am I correct? Yes. Indeed. And so if you could show, because, you know, we are streaming, show the people exactly. Take it out of the brown envelope. I'm sorry. So Minister and Dr. Brown-Burke, if you could come right in the center so they can get the photo much better. Right in the center. No, not dead center, just center. So there you have it, the nomination form. May I also take the liberty, Prime Minister, to say that in due time we will have an app for that. So it won't be just that physical nomination paper, but you will have an app at some point for that. And now may I ask Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Andrew Holness, along with the recipient, Mrs. Tavia Murray. Mrs. Murray? Thank you. And welcome, Mrs. Murray. The Prime Minister will make an official presentation of the birth certificate for the recipient, student. No, she's the guardian of Ashley. And Ashley is 15. She's at school now, right? Because school start full face-to-face start back, you know. All right. All right, thank you so much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Nice, brief, and to the point. Who am I? Really and truly, you know, when the Prime Minister spoke, he did ask the question, who am I? And everybody would know the song that they respond to. But really, even if you have the same name as someone, there is something unique about you. You are the only you. And a birth certificate actually ensures that there are some distinguishing features as to who you are. So if I'm Naomi and there are other Naomi Francises, when was Naomi born? Naomi was born on the 25th of August, I won't tell you the year. And so it also creates that kind of security. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, Operation Birthright, another achievement under the government's belt in terms of ensuring that each person has an identity. Thank you so much to the NITS team, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Remember, later on today, the Prime Minister will host the Town Hall on education. You can join us on the live stream, and certainly the Prime Minister will be at Jamaica College Auditorium to answer all questions related to education. So thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll see you at another occasion. Have a good morning.